In homework 2, you're going to be doing graphing on the computer. It is going to ask you to graph doing different methods. So we're going to look at plotting the intercepts and also slope-intercept form. It's important that when you're doing the graphing on MyLab Math that you do it in the form that they ask you to do, because if it asks you to plot the intercepts, what it's going to be checking for are those specific x and y intercepts are marked on the graph. Meaning if you do it in slope-intercept form and it's the correct line, it's still going to get marked wrong if the intercepts aren't those 2 points that you use. Okay, so we have to be able to do both. Intercepts are crossing the x-axis for an x-intercept and crossing the y-axis for our y-intercept. So to find the intercepts, we're just plugging 0 in for the opposite values. So if I want to find an x-intercept, I'm going to plug 0 in for y. So I'm going to take this equation here, and I'm going to have 4x minus 8, and I'm going to plug a 0 in for my y value. Then I'm going to solve for x. So here I have 8 times 0 is 0. So that's going to cancel out. And then I just have 4x equals 8. Then I'm going to solve for x. So I'm just going to divide both sides by 4. And that's going to give me x equals 2. So that's going to give you the x-intercept, the point 2, 0. So that point will need to be marked. So 2 on the x-axis, 0 on the y-axis. That right there. Then for the y value, with the y-intercept, you'll plug a 0 in for x. So the second step, you'll do 4 times 0 minus 8 times y equals 8. Then there you have 4 times 0 is 0. And you have negative 8y equals 8. So you'll divide by negative 8. And you'll get 8 divided by negative 8 gives us a negative 1. So that will give you the y-intercept of negative 1, which will give you the point 0, negative 1. So that will be 0 on the x, negative 1 on the y. So right there. And then those are the 2 points that need to be marked. And then that will snap to your line that will look like this. The next part of the question is going to ask us to write the equation using function notation, which just means solve the equation for y. So what was it? 4x minus 8y. So there I'm just going through and I'm going to solve for y. So I'll take this 4x, I'll move it over to the right by subtracting it from both sides. They'll cancel on this side, leave me with a negative 8y. I can't do 8 minus 4x, they're not like terms, so I'm just going to write them next to each other. I'm going to put the x term first. So that x term is a negative 4x. Then the 8 doesn't have anything, so I'm going to put positive 8, so plus 8 there. Then I'm going to divide everything by negative 8. And that's going to give me y equals negative 4 divided by negative 8. That double negative there will make this positive. And 4/8 is going to reduce to 1/2 x. And 8 divided by negative 8 will give me a negative 1. So that's what it's asking for there. It's just going to have this f of x, which is our function notation, equals, and then I'll have the box, and then you'll type this in. So 1/2 x minus 1. So this is the part that you're going to type in. Okay, the next form of the graph is slope-intercept form, which this solving for y is slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form is when y is by itself, y equals mx plus b. So m is going to stand for the slope. That's going to be the coefficient on x. B is going to be the number that's by itself. That's going to be your y-intercept. So in slope-intercept form, you can find the slope and the y-intercept of a line. So if you want to find the slope and y-intercept of a line given the equation, you will put the equation in that form. So we'll solve for y. So again, here we'll take this 5x, subtract it from both sides. That's going to give us a negative 2y equals negative 5x plus 10. Then we're going to divide everything by negative 2. That's going to give us a y equals negative 5 over negative 2. That double negative there again is going to become positive. It's going to be a 5 over 2 x, and then 10 divided by negative 2 is negative 5. So we're going to have 5 over 2x minus 5. Then we want to identify our slope and our y-intercept. So remember, this is y equals mx plus b. So the m is going to be that number in front of x. So it's going to be 5 over 2. So our slope is 5 over 2. And then the b, you're going to want to carry the sign that's in front of it. So you get if it's positive or negative. That's going to be negative 5. And that's your y-intercept. And when you do your y-intercept, you want to do it as an ordered pair. So it's going to be 0 and then your y value, which is negative 5. Okay, so if you want to do kind of a little star right here, we always want our y-intercept to be in the form 0, comma, y. Okay, we're going to graph this shortly, but we want to look at the types of slope first from graphing. So you have 4 types of slope. Just going to designate the steepness or the rise over the run of the line. You have positive, negative, 0, and undefined. So when we read a graph, we read it like we read a book. We go left to right. A positive and a negative slope, those are both going to be diagonal lines. If I look at this graph of a positive slope, left to right, it's going up. Another indication is if I look at the numbers in front of x, they're both positive. Okay, so the positive values give you a slope that's going in a positive direction. Negative, same thing. So if I go left to right here, this is going down. And then you also have a negative value in front of your x's for your slope. Now you have these 2 different types of slope, which are 0 slope or undefined slope. So a horizontal line indicates a 0 slope because there's no rise. So the rise is 0. That's just going to be a y equals line. Okay, and there's no x in that line. It's going to go through the y-axis. It's not going to touch the x-axis. Notice these are typically touching both. Okay, these are only touching one. The undefined sloped, that is a vertical line, and that's only going through the x-axis, so that's just going to be x equals and then a number. Another way that you can kind of look this, kind of get these 2 confused sometimes a little bit, but you can do something called the slope man to help you out with this, where you go, okay, left to right going up, that's a plus sign for a positive slope. That's what the positive slope looks like. Left to right going down, it's a minus sign for a negative slope. Straight up and down, put a U underneath it to stand for undefined. Horizontal, put a 0 around it for 0 slope. And then you've got your slope man. Okay, and a lot of times I'll visualize that because I know that if I have a horizontal or vertical line, it's either undefined or 0, and sometimes I forget which is which. So then I visualize, okay, straight up and down, that's the U. Across, that's the mouth, the 0. So maybe that will help some of you as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and graph a line using slope-intercept method. So now if you get the question that says graph using slope-intercept method, you have to have the y-intercept, the point for the y-intercept, and then you have the next point has to be whatever that next point using the slope is going to be. Okay, so first get the equation in slope-intercept form, and then identify the slope in the y-intercept. So in this equation, what is my slope? 4. Now, when I have a whole number for a slope, I do want to put it over a 1 because my slope, I need a rise and I need a run. So anytime I get a whole number there, put it over a 1. And then what is my y-intercept? -2. So I'm going to say my y-intercept is the point 0, -2. So the first thing you do is plot the y-intercept. If it helps you to remember mx plus b, b comes before m in the alphabet. I do the b first, then the m. Okay, so -2 on the y-axis, right here. Now from the y-axis, I'm going to do rise over run to make my next point. So I have a rise of 4, so I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to run 1. Now, when I run, I'm always going to run to the right. My rise will be determined by the sign. So if it is negative, I'll go down, but I'll still go to the right. If it's positive, I go up. I'm always running to the right. So that denominator there, you're always running to the right. Then we're going to connect. That's a bad one. We're going to connect this using a line. Or if you're doing it on the computer, it should snap the line for you. Okay, let's go ahead and look at our practice problem. So why don't you guys take a minute or two and try and graph this. We want to get it in y equals mx plus b form first, and then we'll plot it and graph it. Okay, let's take a look here. So we are going to take the 6x, we're going to subtract it from both sides. That's going to give us a -2y equals -6x plus 12. Then we're going to divide everything by -2. These are going to cancel. We're going to get y equals -6 divided by -2 will give us a positive 3x minus 6, which will then give me a slope of what? 3 over 1, and a y-intercept of 0, -6. So when then I graph that, my first point is -6 on the y-axis. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6 there. Okay, and then I'm going to go rise 3. 1, 2, 3, run 1. And there's our line. Not good at drawing straight lines with this tablet. Okay, now when I do test you guys on this, so in my math lab, you do have to do the specific method. When I test you on it, I will ask you to do the specific method. I'll probably do one where it's slope-intercept and one where it's the x and y-intercept. Okay, and then anything else, I might do pick out the right graph. But if it's pick out the right graph, then it's multiple choice. But I'll probably do 2 graphing problems on the homework, or sorry, the test. Okay, so then those horizontal vertical lines, how we're going to graph them, they're pretty simple to graph. The first one, you have x equals -6. When you have x equals and then a number, it just crosses through the x-axis at that point. So here's -6 on my x-axis. I'm crossing through that. The only way I can cross through the x-axis is by going vertically. So that is a vertical line. Another way that you can think of that is every single point here has an x value of -6. If I cross through that. So this would have the point -6, 0. This has the point -6, 2. This has the point -6, -4. Every x value is the same. And that starts to form a vertical line. And then what's the slope of a vertical line? Undefined. Okay, and that's when x and just a number. And then when it's y and just a number, it crosses through the y-axis. So here's y equals -6. To cross through that, I have to go horizontally. So every single point on this line is going to have a y value of -6. So if I look at some of these points, this is -6, -6. This is going to be 0, -6. This one here looks like it's 3, -6. So they all have the same y value. And what's the slope of this line? 0. Good. So then if I'm just looking at an equation that looks like this, x minus 2 equals 0, and I want to know what the slope is, what do we first notice about that? No y. Go to solve it, I get x equals 2. It's x equals in a number, which means it's what kind of line? It is, yep, it's undefined. It makes a vertical line. This would have a slope of undefined. So no y, which means it's vertical. Okay, and that should be it for Module 2 Homework 2.